Are you a Sally Hardesty guy, or are you Team Erin? Or perhaps when you think of Texas Chainsaw Final Girls, your first thought goes to Kate Hodge as Michelle. And if you know which film I'm talking about there, you probably like it more than I do. Welcome then to my ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Final Girls. Now this isn't about looks, but if on some subconscious level the looks of the actresses have influenced some of my placings today, then so be it. I don't really care. This is just for fun, but mainly it's about the performances of the actresses, the strength of the characters they're playing, and the way that those characters influence the films that they're in. So it's quite a heady mix. I did this for Halloween a while back and I really enjoyed it, though I was looking forward to doing it for Texas Chainsaw more because we've got 9 different Final Girls for the 9 movies in this series. It's one of the few advantages to having a franchise that's so mixed up in terms of its timeline. With Halloween, there were so many different versions of Laurie and of Jamie Lee from down the years that it wasn't as ideal in terms of the conditions for doing it as it is for Texas Chainsaw. But anyway, enough waffle. Let's dive in, and we'll start with the final girl in this series that I definitely consider to be the weakest. I sort of gave a little clue earlier, didn't I, that this girl would come last. As it happens, Texas Chainsaw 3 is my least favourite of the movies. Now, how I rank said movies isn't always going to correspond with how I rank the Final Girls. This is one of the rare exceptions today, I think, where both film and Final Girl align in terms of their position, but this is such a non-entity of a character. I swear I've seen this movie 3 times over the years and I can barely remember anything that Michelle says or contributes to this story. Mostly all I remember is Ken Foray running around with an M16 and Michelle is somewhere there in the woods with him. So yeah, a complete nothing of a character played by a very uninspiring actress. I've never seen her in anything else. The only thing I'll say for her is the fact that her boyfriend or brother who's traveling with her at the start, he's really irritating, whereas Michelle makes no impression, good or bad. You know what, I don't particularly like Texas 2 either, although I don't think you can completely avoid a sense of crossover between how you feel about the films and how you feel about the Final Girls. I'll at least say about Caroline Williams, she's a much better actress than Kate Hodge from Part 3. Caroline Williams really busts a gut in this film. She really tries to give you every sinew of herself into this performance. It is something to behold, regardless of how you feel about the tone that Hooper was going for with this. Had I seen Caroline Williams in other films from further on in her career, maybe I would look back on this performance with a bit more appreciation, but the fact is I haven't. And who calls themselves Stretch? I mean, is that just her persona when she's at the radio station, or is that a name that she goes by when she's just out in bars in Texas and things? I mean, can you imagine having to introduce to your parents a girl called Stretch? This is my mum and dad. Mum and dad, this is Stretch. So finally we have an example of where I really like the movie, but maybe I'm not so keen on the Final Girl. Well, she's all right, a little bit drab and miserable, but I get the reasons why she's like that if you look at the backstory of the character. But certainly if this girl, Lila, is that her name? If she'd have been killed off halfway through this and her friend slash sister had just become the star for the rest of it, I don't think I would have been that bothered. So on that basis, I've had to rank Lila this low, but there is the potential for the character to go forward and be in more films. She does survive this movie, and even if she was in just one more Texas Chainsaw film, that would make her the most prolific Final Girl in the entire franchise. It's scary to think that. And I think if she did come back again, I think she would be much tougher and braver. You know, she would be hell-bent on revenge, presumably, so let's not write this one off just yet. And she's all right in this film, to be honest. Not spectacularly good, but okay, I suppose. This film is absolutely goddamn awful, but one of the very few bright spots in it is the Jenny character played by Renee Zellwegger. I've never seen Zellwegger in anything else apart from this film, but judging by the sheer effort she puts into this, I think she absolutely deserved the chance to go on and do better things. When people talk about this film, they tend to only talk about Matthew McConaughey's performance as if it's like the standout thing, but I think that Zellwegger and McConaughey are both operating on an equal level in this. Jenny's a nice character. You do root for her when you're watching this film, even if you're not particularly enjoying it. If there's one thing that brings this character down, keeps her 6th in the ranking instead of going any higher, it's the fact that she doesn't kill any of these complete and utter freaks at the end of the film. Did they really think they were going to get a sequel with this? Is that why they leave most of them alive? I mean, seriously, just let us have some fun watching Jenny kill them off in various ways. As it is, 6th place for Jenny. So we've arrived at an upset. Sally Hardesty, only this high. I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is my favourite film in this franchise. But in terms of Sally Hardesty, as great as the performance is from Marilyn Burns, and I do like Sally, but the thing about the original film is, as perfect as it is, if you had to tinker with one thing, not that I would want to, but if you had to, it would probably be the characterization of these protagonists. I don't think they do enough with that during that 20-30 minute stretch where they're travelling across Texas in the minivan. I think we should have gotten to find out a little bit more about these people, especially Sally, who's going to go on to be the main character. I mean, she's so ballsy when she's getting away from Leatherface and the family towards the end, but all we really find out about her as a person is the fact that she gets very frustrated when she's trying to look after her disabled brother. So I think Tobe Hooper could have given us a little bit more in terms of the characterization, but like I said, I still like her, and the performance is absolutely superb, and under trying conditions as well, because I believe they were not paid very much for this film, and they had to work in extreme heat day by day throughout the shoot. I think Leatherface is an underrated movie. I'm not going to have a go at this film for trying to do something different. I mean, this was the 8th film. Why not try and mix it up a little bit? Was the execution perfect? Well, I already sort of went into that in my review of the film. In terms of this character, Lizzy, I liked her. I liked both character and actress. And the only thing that brings her down, really, is the fact that she gets killed at the end. You know, you don't get that happy moment like at the end of the original film where Sally gets on the back of the truck and you're like, breathe. It is a bit of a bleak ending, but I did like Lizzy's journey through the story, and for that reason I'm going to put her very high today. My feelings about this character are very similar to how I feel about Lizzy from Leatherface, to be honest. Decent character, good performance. It's just a shame about the downbeat ending. I should have seen it coming. I mean, how could these kids, any of these kids, survived if we still have the 2003 remake to come chronologically, if you see what I mean? But Jordana Brewster certainly brings a bit of class to this role. Obviously, she's famous for doing the Fast and the Furious movies. I've seen her in quite a few bits and bobs, actually. Is this a bad time to admit I've seen at least one season of the Dallas remake, which Jordana Brewster was in? Probably. I've said before on the channel that when it comes to Texas Chainsaw the beginning, I really need to give it another chance because I did tear into it in my review. I need to watch it next time before I watch the remake and just watch that whole timeline as one big 3-hour epic, if you see what I mean. It didn't work for me watching the remake and then trying to get my head into another story which takes place before the remake where clearly the characters are going to die. But as for this character played by Jordana Brewster, one of the better ones in the series, I would say. I wanted to put this girl at number 1. I really, really enjoyed the performance in this of Alexandra Daddario. Not only is she playing a very interesting character, but the performance itself is very impressive. In fact, I watched another horror film not long after I watched this just because it had Daddario in it. I think she was involved in some kind of witch's coven in this particular film or something. It wasn't very good. It did put me off watching further horror films just because they have Alexandra Daddario in them. This character makes one big mistake at the end of this film which stops her winning this ranking today, which is the fact that she lets Leatherface live. So again, we're talking about the end of a Texas Chainsaw film as the worst thing that a certain character does. This time around, we're not talking about death, we're talking about a monumental error in judgment. So I don't like this idea of this character, Heather, I think it is, and Leatherface cohabiting going forwards, I think she should have killed Leatherface. I mean, I don't mind all the stuff at the factory, being on his side. She's just doing what she needs at that point to survive. You know, all that do your thing, because that's fine in that moment, because she has to. She has to team up with him. But once they're safe and back at the mansion, I think she has to kill him, either by locking him in the cellar forever or some other means. But ultimately, this guy has still killed her friends, and she needs to sort that out. She can't just live with Leatherface. So that's a black mark on the character and also the movie, because I really enjoyed the movie apart from this one little bit. So it's a shame for this character. She almost made it to number 1, but now it's time to find out who did. See, I've got Erin at number 1, although I'd say that Texas Chainsaw the Remake is not actually one of my favourite films in this franchise. I think I ranked it 4th the last time I did a ranking, and that was before the remake came out. But taking the character away from the movie, I think Erin is really awesome. She doesn't have any weak points like all the other girls do. With every other girl in this ranking, I can point to something which maybe I don't quite like, but I can't do that with Erin. Great character. The performance is really good as well. Jessica Biel has a lot of talent as an actress, and if we talk about the end of this film, which has become a bit of a theme as we've gone through this ranking, talking about how these characters fare at the end of their respective movies, not only does Erin survive, but she also strikes some really deadly hammer blows into these villains. I love the moment where she cuts off Leatherface's arm. I mean, that's just one of the best moments in the franchise. You don't see that coming, but it's awesome when it happens. And even better than that, running over that fucking irritating cop. I can't stand that character. Having to tolerate him again all the way through Texas Chainsaw the beginning was just painful for me. I know some people like this character. I can't stand him. So yes, Erin, running that guy over. Jesus Christ. Very happy to see him die at the end of the Texas Chainsaw remake. So I've got Erin at number 1. Her film is nowhere near my favourite, but ranked against all these other final girls, she wins the day. Do let me know where you would rank these girls in the comments below, and I guess that wraps up today's video. I'll be back to do something else very soon, I guess. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.